Ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Mr. Ben Thornley to Superstar Speakers. How you doing, Ben?
Good evening, guys. I'm very well. I love that last clip there that you showed me giving the ball away. It was brilliant. Well, that straight to the opposition. Love it.
I wanted to get a bit of everything in there for you.
That was my highlight reel, was it?
Yeah. It's the shortest one we've had.
I can well imagine. Oh dear.
In all seriousness, Ben, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us at Superstar Speakers. I want to ask you first and foremost about the book, because the book is it's kind of the end of the journey almost. It's like the full stop on what was the career. I'm interested in the timing of the book. Why did it come? It was 2018.
It was.
Time it came out. What was why then? Why not any other time in your career or in your life?
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I had never even thought about writing a book. It wasn't even on my agenda. It was only that the guy that ended up co-writing it with me, Dan Poole, he'd been a long time Man United fan, and because I split my time between Manchester and Essex, he worked just around the corner from Euston, which is where obviously I get the train from. And he saw me coming through the terminal a couple of times at Euston because there was something that he needed me to sign that he had for ages. And I was one of the very few signatures that he didn't have. So he got in touch with me via the club, asked could I meet him just outside Euston Station. We sat and had a cup of coffee and I gladly signed whatever he wanted. He went on his way. And only then did he ring me back and say, listen, I actually think you've got a really interesting story. Have you ever thought about putting it down in paper form and writing a book? And straight away just said no. I said I hadn't. I didn't think that my story would be anything that anybody would be that interested in. Certainly not to try and get it on the shelves of a bookshop. But he convinced me there was a way to do it. And with the people that I played with, if we could choose that angle to get them to say a little bit about me and the sort of person I was, and certainly the sort of player that I was before and after my injury. So that's how we went about doing it. And I couldn't have done it without him. Certainly couldn't have done it without the contributions from all the fantastic players that managed to come on board. And I was really pleased with the finished article. And from what I can gather, it was really well received. But actually something that was on my lifelong agenda to do, never even thought about it. I was coerced into it by Dan, my co-author.
Was there
Hi, Ben, how you doing? How you doing, Ben? Good?
I'm all right, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, good. Just on the book, Ben, which players were involved with the book? You mentioned there was players involved. Was the manager involved? Which other players were involved?
Yes, Sir Alex Ferguson. The slightly saddening thing about Sir Alex was that at the time he was one of the last people that I asked to do it, and he was more than happy to do it. But I'd literally arranged it with him, and 3 days later was when he had to be rushed into hospital. So I did have to wait quite a long time for him to do that, understandably. But the other players that got involved, I mean, all the lads that I played with in the class of '92 that went on to be stellar names. Paul Scholes, David Beckham did it in the back of a taxi going from his house to Heathrow to fly out to Miami. Ryan Giggs, Gary Neville, Nicky Butt, Bryan Robson, Andrei Kanchelskis, Denis Irwin. The list honestly is endless of the great players that very, very kindly gave up their time to speak with Dan and tell him what they thought about me. And the way that Dan incorporated it into the book in the various different chapters at the appropriate places, he wrote it extremely well. And you know what? Having read it myself, I was always felt very strange about seeing myself on screen, and still am in all fairness. But actually reading the book and the humbling things that people have written about me and the way that Dan has written it, it was a real cathartic experience, but it was one that I'm really glad I went through.
Yeah, because that's something that we speak to the players on the tour, and they all hold you in high regard with regards to that class of '92. obviously they all say you was one of the best players in that squad. So what's that like for you to hear that from players such as Ryan Giggs, Beckham, Scholes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's terrific. I mean, at one stage, you know, we were all coming through together, and the manager was trying to incorporate us into the first team squad, and just at the wrong time. You know, if there is a right time to get a bad knee injury, I got mine just after I'd made my debut, and I'm pretty sure that I would have been given plenty more opportunities in the first team like those lads did. However, you know, whatever might have come of those, who knows? But I certainly know that I was thought of as highly as all those names that you've just mentioned. Yeah. But despite what happened to me, those lads were terrific lads to grow up with. They were superb footballers. They had a work ethic. They had the right people giving them the right information, and they wanted to learn and they wanted to listen. And when you've got a blend like that and a concoction with skill built in with Sir Alex Ferguson leading the way, it's a recipe for winning things, and that's exactly what they went on and did.
And a lot of competition for places back then. Lee Sharp, Ryan Giggs on the left, and then obviously Konchesky and Beckham on the right. Could you play either wing?
I could play either wing. Whether I would have been good enough to dislodge the names that you just mentioned, I don't know. I mean, Andre and obviously Sharpie, you know, moved on fairly quickly. But I mean, the longevity of Ryan Giggs is something that I still marvel at to this day, with the how he managed to reinvent himself and the fact that he went on playing at the top level till he was 40 years of age. I mean, it's just an incredible feat. And obviously Beck's a great friend of mine when I was younger, and worked exceptionally hard at the things that he was good at. So it would have been very difficult for me to dislodge them. But I was a decent believer in my own ability, and I think the fact that the manager was also looking for a way to try and incorporate me as well. However he would have done it, I would have relished the chance of being able to play some more games for him.
Yeah, and did that help with these players? Then you mentioned Giggsy there. Did it help having that competition? And did you egg each other on? And obviously you're trying to get better with those players there. Was it good to have that competition?
Yeah, funnily enough, I spoke with somebody this afternoon on a similar sort of podium to this, and the one real regret that I have got after the injury is not the injury itself; it's the fact that I could only go so far in making myself a better player. I actually feel as though playing with the players that we've already mentioned there, you know, your Scholeses, your Nicky Butts, your Giggses, your Beckhams, your Gary Nevilles, you know, all real winners in their own right, is how much they would have made me a better player and not how I would have made a better player out of myself. And I think that when you are training day in, day out, and you're playing day in, day out, and you get an understanding, that is why they were so successful. They knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they helped each other out when necessary. And like I said, I'd love to have played more games, but I would love to have seen how much I would have improved playing with such brilliant players as those.
Yeah, and who did you pal about within that team?
Yeah, I mean, when we were growing up, there was myself, there was David, there was Gary Neville, there was Chris Casper, who sadly, you know, had to retire early through injury when he was playing for Reading. But you know, it wasn't just the four of us. Keith Gillespie and Robbie Savage, for example, we used to make up sort of teams of 2, 4, maybe even 6, and go up and play snooker sometimes. So it wasn't. We didn't really have anything very cliquey, but whenever it did come to doing things together, it was always pretty much the four of us that organised it.
Yeah, and just leading on to something there, what do you think to those comments by Robbie Savage saying he was a world class player at times? I'm sure Rob's got a clip somewhere.
Oh yeah, I'll show you. Me and Jamie were talking about this just before you joined us. Like, if anyone wants to put comment on this one.
What defines world class? Because at times, I'll be honest with you, I was world class. On individual games. Yes. I played against Essien.
That's Robbie Savage genuinely saying he was world class. Like, you must have a comment on that one, Ben.
Well, I'm very, very I am very surprised. I thought you were saying it was Robbie Savage saying that he was world class.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah, it is.
He is done it by himself.
I couldn't hear the clip.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
No,
so no.
I couldn't hear the. I thought it. So it was Robbie Savage saying about himself that he was world class.
Robbie Savage saying to Ian Wright, Steve McManaman, and Michael Owen that he was at certain points in his career world class because he man marched Zola out of a game. That made him world class.
Right. I'm. I mean, I've got a lot of time for Sav, but I'm not going along with that.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Ben. I'll tag you in the clip on Twitter at the end of this, and you can watch it yourself.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
The look on Michael Owen's face is priceless.
Well, when I think of world class players, Robbie will forgive me for saying this, he doesn't come into it.
This is a man that tripped over coming out of the tunnel at Leicester, to be honest with you.
Hey, listen,
I've never seen Zidane do that.
Listen, in all fairness to him, he's made an exceptionally good living out of being a professional footballer. And I knew what his disappointment was when he left Manchester United and he went to Crewe. But do you know what? He was determined to show everybody, and he did that. And as much as I'm not suggesting, well, I'm not saying that Robbie Savage is up there with my world class, would be in my world class 11. I have got the utmost respect for him in the way that he went about being a professional footballer and his life subsequently in the media.
I have to admit, me and Jamie are like having a little dig at him, but we do believe. I mean, I've never met Robbie, but we believe he can take this in the spirit that it's meant. Like, it's just a little bit of a ribbing.
Yeah, definitely. It is a little bit of a ribbon, but I'm looking forward to seeing Michael Owen's face.
It's brilliant. Yeah. It's beautiful. I've got a question for you, Ben. Going back to yourself, you do a lot of work at MUTV. You're doing a lot of work in hospitality at Match Day. I mean, what's it like? Because you're at Man United as a young man. You left, etc., like 20 years back. But they've still brought you back into the family of Manchester United. How did that come about? And what does that mean to you? They haven't just like left you out to the wilderness, as it were. You're still very much a big part of the community and the family of Manchester United.
Yeah, I think that that obviously I had a period of time away from the club, not just playing, but after I'd finished playing. And then MUTV got in touch with me to ask would I come back and do the odd commentary game on a match day. But I think my big break came with MUTV when the club themselves phoned me up and asked me to go back and work in some capacity in the hospitality suites. And that was where the door opened a little bit for me to be in contact with MUTV on a more regular basis, and for me to get for me to have a little bit more work thrown my way, because they knew that I enjoyed doing the commentary. I was really keen on not just the first team, but other aspects of it as well, especially with my history with the class of '92. The FA Youth Cup, for example, I've covered this season, which was sadly curtailed, and they got to the semi-final where they were playing Chelsea. And with Paddy Crerand, who was obviously, doing all of the match day stuff for Manchester United up until this season, if you like, when they sort of stood him down from going to the away games. Paddy's 81 and he's a hero and he's just fantastic. But he was getting a little bit. He was getting a little bit narky about having to be at away games at certain times. So to take that away from him altogether would have been really cruel. So they've left Paddy doing the whole matches, and I'm now, or certainly this season anyway, I was doing all the away matches, which has been absolutely fantastic for me, as well as covering quite a lot of the under-23s and the odd game, especially in the FA Youth Cup for the under-18s. I love doing what I do, and I'm very, very fortunate. But that is how, in the period of the last sort of 6 to 8 years, it's grown, and I've become doing more and more.
And you're on most mornings at the minute, aren't you? During lockdown, you've got the show with obviously Waz and Maisie. How's that going?
It's fun. Do you know what? They came up with the idea when Boris Johnson announced this lockdown of just something that we could do lighthearted, so that we didn't all lose touch with each other. And I don't know whose idea it was at MUTV. I'm sure it was collective, but it's been absolutely brilliant, and it's been great to be involved with 3 great lads, and Stuart Gardner as well, who hosts it. But Danny Webber, Wes Brown and Maisie, it's great to get up every morning. It gives you a little bit of structure to your day. Between us all, we've managed to get some tremendous guests on already. This week we've got Ryan Giggs at the end of the week. We've got Jesper Blomqvist on Wednesday. But we've had players from, past and present, and we've even had Paddy on from his back garden, and that was good fun trying to get him tuned into working out how Zoom works. So yeah, we've completed our 36th show this morning, and with the uncertainty on when we're going to get started again, we could be heading easily for 50 in 3 weeks' time. But it's been a great experience, and like I said, it's kept us all in touch. And the comments that we've had from worldwide, really, when it goes out, have been really, really pleasing.
One of our followers clearly watches it because he wants to ask this question: Maisie, Brown, and Webber, who wins in a fight?
Maisie, I tell you what, Maisie might not be the fittest anymore, but I tell you what, he is a powerful lad, and if he swung one, I don't care who was on the end of it, Wes or Danny, they're going down. He's got incredible strength, Maisie. You want to see him hit a golf ball, but yeah, it would definitely be Maisie.
And you don't get questions like that in the morning, do you, on MUTV?
Say again?
But you don't get questions like that on MUTV, do you?
No, who would win in a fight? No, we don't. We haven't had that one. No, we've had some obscure ones and some strange comments, but no, we've not had who would win in a fight. But it would be Maisie.
Is he the Joker then? Is he the Joker of the pack out of those four?
Yeah, he's a character. Early on in the series, he came on and he dyed all his hair and made himself look like Paddy McGuinness from Max and Paddy. And I don't know who helped him do it, but he's a proper joker. He's great one-lines, and he is very witty, and he is just great company. I've known him a long, long time, and he never ceases to make me laugh.
Another question's come in from Peter Wood, and he says, Ben, apart from the Malta branch, what is your favourite supporters club, pal?
Oh, I've got to say Edinburgh, haven't I?
Yeah, I think you might have to.
Yeah, I got a lot of time for Peter. He's always brilliant in conversation, great company, and I know that he does a lot of sterling work as well with raising money, etc., etc. So, yes, I would have to say that Malta, because it was the first one that I encountered, is without question my favourite branch. But Peter does some brilliant work with the Edinburgh branch. There's no question. Great guy.
And just Mansfield's got to be in there, is it, Ben? Mansfield with...
of course. Yeah. In fact, I think I'm going over to do something for them when we can get it organised. Myself and Russell Beardsmore, we had it lined up for the end of the season, but obviously we need to wait. But they've been in touch with me and they still want to do that, so I'll look forward to that.
I was going to say there's very different weather with regards to Malta, Edinburgh, and Mansfield, isn't there? I can see why Malta would be your favourite one to visit after all them.
Yeah,
we went Edinburgh.
I've been going a long time to Malta, and apart from the weather, the people are special. They really are. They're so hospitable, and they have a real close affiliation with Manchester United. It's the oldest supporters club in the world, and they've just celebrated 60 years in 2019. So yeah, they're still going strong. Great people, great place.
Yeah. Did you attend that?
Go on, Jamie, please.
Did you attend that annual 60th? Because I know a lot of players did, didn't they? And Giggsy and that was there. And...
Yeah, I did. I was. In fact, I was sitting on Ryan's table. The two of us were on the same table, and I went to bowl because they had one in Manchester at the beginning of 2019 at Hotel Football. I was a guest for that, and I was also a guest to the dinner in June last year, and both incredible occasions, and they pull out all the stops, and they thoroughly deserve all the support they get in Malta.
Cool. I think it's now a good time to go into your fantasy Manchester United 1 to 11. It's something we ask every one of our guests to do. So
look at that jacket.
If we want to talk, that's beautiful, isn't it?
It's like Boone.
It is like Boone. I'll tell you what I need. I just realised how much I need my hair cutting.
That's why I've got the old isolation, the old COVID cut.
Ian Beale's got one of them jackets as well, hasn't he?
Oh no! Don't tarnish me with that brush.
And this is probably the last time we ever get a Man United legend on the show after we're bullying Ben Thornley like this.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. I've had it for years.
I'll bet.
Not the jacket, the bullying.
Onto your team then. We've got the back here. We've got Peter Schmeichel in goal. Then at the back, we've got Jaap Stam, Rio Ferdinand, and Duncan Edwards. If you could talk us through your choices here, please, Ben.
Well, I toyed with the idea of going with a back four because I really wanted to include my mate Gary Neville and also Denis Irwin, who is, one of the most underrated players that I think's ever played for Man United. But because I wanted to go stronger up the park, I needed to curtail it at the back. So I've gone with Jaap Stam and Rio. I mean, Jaap was just you just couldn't pass him, and Rio is somebody that I've always admired as a wonderful ball playing centre half. I don't think there was anybody better at reading the game and at being able to set attacks going from the back. I thought he was a very, very accomplished footballer. And Duncan Edwards, I mean, I was told to pick a team because it could be anybody. Now, I obviously never saw Duncan Edwards play for obvious reasons because he passed away in the Munich air disaster. But there are so many people of his era that said it's such a shame that we didn't ever get to see what Duncan Edwards could have done in his career because he was an absolutely fabulous player. Some even, rating him more highly than your Dennis Laws, your George Best and your Bobby Charltons of this world. So if people are saying that, then he must have been good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you look at his age and everything and the amount of caps he got for England and the amount of appearances he played for Manchester United, just that alone just shows what a great talent he was, what a great player he was at such a young age.
Yeah, exactly. There was so many people that just said he was an absolutely terrific footballer, and obviously, what a shame, not just for him but for everybody on that fateful night.
How big was the shadow of the Busby Babes for you guys in the class of '92? Because the comparisons, they're always there. Was there something at the time where people were looking at you guys saying, these guys can be the next ones, these guys are the next Busby Babes? Or were you aware of it, or was it just something in hindsight?
I think we started to become aware of it when certainly the local press, the Manchester Evening News, started to make comparisons when we were slowly but surely making our way into the next phase of it and each round of the FA Youth Cup. And I think it was them first of all, and then obviously the national papers got hold of it as well, and they started to compare us to that great team in the 50s that contained those guys. So we weren't aware of it to begin with, but obviously the further we got in the competition, the more that name stuck really, and that we were the next generation. And of course the way that they started to call us from evolving from the Busby Babes was Fergie's fledglings.
Yeah, and because you won the cup as well, the first team to win that Milk Cup since the Busby Babes, is that right?
What the Northern Ireland Milk Cup?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Right, I didn't realise that. I must admit, I knew that the FA Youth Cup was something that nobody had won in a Manchester United shirt since then. But when I realised that we had a bit of a special group was when we won that tournament in Ireland in our first month of being at the club. I actually thought that we were we looked like a team that were more than capable of winning the national trophy, and I proved myself right when we lifted it the following May.
And is that something Sir Alex set up? Is that something he wanted to do? He wanted to bring a big group of players through?
Definitely.
Yeah.
From his arrival in 1986, he wanted to make sure that there was an overhaul of the youth system, if you like, and he wanted to make sure that he had the best lads, not just locally, but he had the best lads from anywhere coming into the club. And, we did still have the local nucleus, myself and Scholesy and Nicky Butt and Gary Neville. And then, not too far away was Robbie Savage in North Wales. Then you got Bex in London, Keith Gillespie over in Northern Ireland, John O'Kane in Nottingham. So, he made sure that his scouting network was starting to pay off, and slowly but surely he built a team, or Eric Harrison built a team that won that Youth Cup. And then I think we should have won it the following year. We didn't. We lost in the final to a very, very good Leeds side. I've got no qualms about them beating us, unfortunately. I've spoken to a few of their players since and told them that they thoroughly deserved it. And then I think there was a break, and then we won it again in 1995. Obviously, a different group of players. But what Alex Ferguson came in to do, it was starting to pay off in the early to mid 90s with the Youth Cup success.
It's fantastic. Let's go back to the team and move on to this midfield. I mean, you can tell that you played in midfield, but this is strong. Ben, this is a strong midfield here, pal.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously picked a majority of the players from present day, and you know, some of them that I played with, and there's some there, but Bryan Robson, my absolute hero as a kid, and you know, somebody who, when people say, would you have Robson or Keane, I don't like choosing between either of them, but Bryan Robson for me, because he was the one that got my interest in football. He was the one that I used to watch for Man United when they were dour under Ron Atkinson, just roll his sleeves up and just almost a one-man team, just dragging teams to the latter stages of cup competitions and even winning them. And absolutely brilliant for Man United, brilliant for England. And it was a privilege to actually be in the same team as him from time to time when I was there. Roy Keane was a terrific footballer. I think everybody that'll tell you who's played with him, Sir Alex included, will say that he's up there with his best signing, an unbelievable player. Scholesy, for me, the best player I've ever played with. So talented, can read a game a couple of seconds before everybody else, knows where he needs to be on the pitch, scored some terrific goals, and technically the best footballer I've had the privilege of playing with and watching. He's absolutely sublime. And then is that because I picked George Best up there, didn't I?
Yeah, you've got George Best at the front.
The front of the diamond. Yeah, I mean, you know, I again, somebody else that I never saw live for different reasons than I obviously didn't see Duncan Edwards, but the number of people that have turned around and said that he was just an absolute genius. I think sometimes that word is overused, but when you see some of the clips and some of the things that he did, and not only that, but with heavier balls and with, you know, worse pitches, I would love to have seen George Best in the present day game. I think he would have been a sight.
Yeah. Did George come and watch the games when he was in the class of 92? Did he come and watch? Was he about training ground, that kind of thing? Did he have anything to say?
I wasn't aware that he ever did come. I don't know whether he was still, you know, maybe battling his demons at that time. I'm not sure. I can't recall at any one time that somebody told me that George Best was in the stands.
You were very
which is a shame.
Yeah, you're very famously compared to George Best, though, by Nobby Styles, weren't you? Like that. Surely that's like a badge of honour for you. Surely that's something you can have with you forever.
Well, I think that you know, everybody or certain footballers at certain times, they do get compared to this and to that, and these are the reasons why. But I think that the thing for me was that it was Nobby Styles that said it. And Nobby was along with Eric Harrison, he was my youth team coach. He was the one that took us actually to the Milk Cup in the July of 91 when we all signed. Eric wasn't there. And I think that stemmed from a goal that always stuck with him that I scored in one of the group matches where I sort of picked up the ball midway inside the opposition half and beat about 4 or 5 players and stuck the ball in the back of the net. And he actually came to me afterwards and he said, I haven't seen a goal like that since I played with George Best. Now, that wasn't anything that I just sort of took that as a sort of a bit of a flippant comment, but obviously a pat on the back. What he actually said when the quote that appeared in the book, he actually said that to a friend of mine's father who happened to be on the same table in a function where Sir Matt was, and somebody asked that question, you know, who are the next generation to come through? And Nobby did say, I've seen the closest thing to George Best in the last sort of 6 months. And I think that was where it was stemmed from. Listen, I know for a fact that people would scoff at that, and I really don't blame him. I would do it myself. But because it came from Nobby, because he had a reason for saying it, and because of his ilk in the game, and he's standing in the game, Man United legend, World Cup winner, then yes, to hear that from him, I obviously, even though it was extremely short-lived, it was special to hear somebody like that compare me to such a brilliant talent as George Best.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think you're too humble, Ben. I think you should take that one and really embrace that. You're too humble with that one, mate.
Well, I think that's just the way I've got to the stage now whereby, I've written the book and now I just like taking the piss out of myself.
Oh, good. Because there was a few barmen in Aberdeen that said you were like George Best as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would imagine, yeah. for not the same reason, I would have thought.
Completely different. Moving on then, we've got Ryan Giggs and Cristiano Ronaldo there, just completing your midfield. What can you add to these two greats?
Well, I've already spoken about Giggsy. I mean, to stay at one club for all your life and to win what he's done, I just can't speak highly enough of the type of guy that you need to be able to do what he's done, and nobody will surpass what Ryan Giggs has been able to achieve. The most decorated player in the Premier League, and let's not forget, yes, we've had some fabulous players, but he was the one that really set everybody's tongues wagging when he made his first season debut when he was 18 and scored some absolutely sensational goals, and he went on and he did that for 22, 23 years, and it's quite exceptional. Ronaldo, I've never obviously never got the chance to play with Ronaldo. What I've seen of him he's only ever been on the TV, apart from when they knocked us out of the Champions League when Nani got sent off. And I don't think that with him and Lionel Messi, there is you just run out of superlatives to describe what they've done. He's got a record number of hat-tricks. He's nearly scored as many goals as he has made appearances. His goal-scoring record is absolutely phenomenal. And not only that, but he never gets injured. His body is just it's a temple. It's pristine. And again, somebody that has looked after himself. He's, mid-30s at the moment. And who's to say that he won't do what Giggsy's done and he's not going to do it with one club. But I certainly think that the nick that he keeps himself in, he will just keep going until he is 40.
And already over 1,000 games. Incredible.
It's unbelievable what he's managed to do. And you think that some people, when they leave Man United, they think, can you actually take it to another plane? Because normally when you leave Man United, most of the time, you tend to. He has just taken his game to his absolutely, along with Lionel Messi, in full flight. He's marvellous to watch.
Yeah, you're going a bit dark there, Ben. Have you forgot to pay your lecky bill?
Sorry, I can put a light on.
Mate.
I never even thought. I was just enjoying myself.
That's good.
Is that better?
Perfect, mate. Perfect.
I put 20p in the meter.
Rounding out your team then, up front on his own, Mr. Wayne Rooney. Why Wayne? It's such a daft question, but why Wayne? Oh, we lost him. Are you there, Ben? He's there.
Why Wayne? Basically, yeah. Can you not hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Why Wayne? I'll say what very, very simply, but somebody who burst onto the scene at such an early age, and then gets a move to Manchester United and just hits the ground running with a hat-trick straight away. You knew it was going to be a matter of time before he broke the goal-scoring record. He's done it at Man United and he's done it at England as well. And he's just an exceptional footballer who's still playing, by the way. Let's not forget that. But all the goal scoring records that he's broken is testament to how hard he's worked and how much he wanted to be a professional footballer. And some of the goals that he scored as well have just been terrific. And I think the partnership that he had with Ronaldo when they were both there and in full pomp, some of the goals that they scored from end to end between them, I could just watch those goals over and over again. Absolutely terrific player.
And you say there he broke some records, but you think he sacrificed himself for the better of the team as well? He went out on the left wing, or he'd sacrificed himself for the likes of Ronaldo, Tevez, and he still broke those records. Incredible.
Yeah, it is, and that is also testament to his intelligence as a footballer. And do you know what? When you speak to him, he might not be at his best when he's doing interviews, but I tell you what, he's a very, very articulate lad. I think underrated sometimes when he is conducting interviews, but certainly as a footballer, extremely intelligent and, like you said, prepared to do what's best for the team and still come out on top.
Yeah, and with what you said about Robbo as well, I'm guessing he's your captain for this team.
Yeah, I think he has to be. Like I said, I don't like choosing between Robson and Keane, but he was the man that got me involved in football. He was the reason why I wanted to start kicking a ball around. And they don't call him Captain Marvel for nothing, so I'm happy with that.
So what's that moment like then when you get to work with Bryan Robson and you get to see him and be in that same club as him? Like, do you ever just have that moment of like, oh my God, I'm actually here with Bryan Robson?
Yeah. I think I'd only been in the Cliff about 2 or 3 days, and Bryan Robson came walking down the stairs and I didn't know where to look. And he was carrying about 6 boxes of New Balance football boots. And he said, "Are you all right?" And I just said, yeah, like rabbit in the headlights. And he said, "What size are you?" So I told him my size, and we happened to be the same size. And he said, "There you go, try those on and see what they're like." So obviously it was pre-season, and I think it was just a case of he didn't want to get the blisters, and he was quite happy. He was quite happy for me to do it. But I broke them in, spent 2 weeks training in them, and just before I was going off to the tournament in Northern Ireland, I went to him and I said, "Bryan, here's your boots back. I've polished them up for you." And he said, "What were they like?" And I said, "They were fantastic." And he said, "You can keep them," and I've still got them.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so I've still got them. Yeah, that was a special moment for me.
Yeah, was it hard picking that team? Obviously, left a few people out there, a few comments there coming through. Bobby Charlton, Eric Cantona. Yeah. You played with Eric Cantona.
Yeah, I did. I played with Eric Cantona, and I appreciate that. If somebody else asked me to do it in a month's time, I probably might omit one of those names and add somebody else. Such is the strength and depth of the number of players that have come through at Manchester United. I appreciate that nobody is going to pick the same 11, but that's why I was asked to pick my 11 and not somebody else's, because somebody else's is going to be different, and there's going to be arguments as to why. But I'd love to see somebody put up a real kosher argument for me taking any of those players that I picked out.
Yeah, we do have a mini league on our website about who the most popular players are, and at the moment we've got a joint of Schmeichel, Irwin, Giggs, Robson, and Scholes are all the top players that everybody picks, which I think is you got every single one. Well, bar Irwin, which you would have wanted.
Yeah, I would have put, if I was going with a back four, I would have definitely put Denis in. But I think that the numbers of midfield and attacking options that we've had and that I was able to call on sort of made me go with a back three. But otherwise, Denis would definitely have been in it. He is one of my all-time favourite players and somebody who, when you think about the number of games and how consistent he was, and the fact that he cost Alex Ferguson 650 grand, it's quite phenomenal, the level of service that he gave to Man United.
He'd be worth more than that now. Look, you could sign him up now; would be worth more than that.
He would undoubtedly. Somebody like Denis, if in his prime, if he ever came on the market, he would be worth millions, untold millions.
I mean, like now at his age.
Oh,
I think
sorry, now.
age,
Yeah. I mean, Denis has played in some of the matches for us over the years, and he's still in absolutely terrific condition. He'll say that he's not, and he's the wrong side of 50 now, but I tell you what, he can still do it because there's absolutely no weight to him whatsoever.
Just on that, Ben, we've got a question here from David Pipes. If Rob wants to put that up,
yeah, sure. Let me just find. Oh, yeah, there we go. So it says, when we saw you playing a Legends game at Mansfield Woodhouse last year, I think you bagged a goal and looked sharp. But what about Sammy Mack? Absolute class.
Yeah. We played in a game over there at Mansfield Woodhouse because one of the guys who's in charge there with his team was very fortunate a few years ago to win the Euro Millions lottery. And one thing he's always wanted to do is have a box at Old Trafford, which of course now he can afford. So in our hospitality duties, we've what?
I think he's watching this actually. I'm sure he is.
Is it?
Yeah,
Gareth. Yeah, so absolutely brilliant bloke. And he said, can we try and organise a game? And we did that. I'm not so sure that he was watching the same game if he said I look sharp.
Yeah,
but I did score. But Sammy McElroy, Frank Stapleton, and Arthur Albiston play with us on a regular basis. They've got a combined age of over 200.
Yeah, I think he tricked you though as well, didn't he? Because Wes seems to think he was coming down to play an over 50s team, and they're actually all young, fit lads, weren't they? My brother was in that team.
Well, we were certainly coming down to play. What we try and stipulate is that people are over, they're over 35. Because we have come up against teams, and we played a team down in the Bristol area last year, and I set out the stipulations quite clearly. And our youngest player was Danny Webber at 37, and he was still older than their oldest player, who was 36. They had, and the thing is that I appreciate that they play Man United, and it's a little bit of a coup, and they want to win. But it just doesn't become a spectacle for the people that have paid to come and watch the game if they see a score of 7 or 8-0, because they're all 25-year-old lads that are fit as you dare, and we've got Sammy, Arthur, and Frank who are the wrong side of 60. It just doesn't make for a good game. But we've got some decent players who can still run, and Keith, that you had on Friday, he's one of them. Danny Webber can still run. Wes can still do it. We have Lee Hendry plays for us every now and again. Michael Gray, who used to play for Sunderland. So, we thought, well, if people are going to start trying to beat us by bringing in younger players, then we're going to add a couple of ringers as well to help us out. But most of the time, it is good fun. Yeah,
and a good night in Mansfield. Some good pubs.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there was one great pub that we went into that was sort of we had like a fire, and I can't remember what it was called, but really nice building. Really nice building, yeah.
Fire in pubs in Mansfield, Ben. There's often a fire, even outside them sometimes.
No, but we really enjoyed that. We really enjoyed that with Gareth. He's a great bloke, and we enjoyed it immensely.
We've got some more questions coming in, Ben, for you. Sean has asked, other than the gaffer, who would be the person you wanted to impress the most in training?
It would have been Eric Harrison. I mean, I don't know at which time he's talking about. I mean, if he's talking about training with the first team, then it was only really the gaffer that you needed to impress. The rest of the lads, it didn't really matter. To be fair, I would say Roy Keane as well, because if you gave the ball away, if Roy Keane hadn't shouted at you in a training session, then you knew you'd done okay. So you could come off and say, well, I was quite happy with the way that went. But very often you could not get through a training session because as soon as you gave the ball away, Roy was on it. That was just the type of person he was. But he played like he trained, and that's why he was so successful.
What's that like, getting like that one-on-one with Roy Keane shouting at you? How's that compared to an Alex Ferguson?
Do you know what? It didn't really happen to me. I mean, every now and again, he'd have a bit of a snap, but I always got on really well with Roy. There wasn't our paths never crossed at all, and we never fell out. And I was with him a matter of months ago when we both went to a Salford City game to watch them, and I was there with my son, and he sat with my son, and he was absolutely brilliant with him, and he is great company. But as a footballer, he was a different animal. But you had to be. If you want to be successful, you've got to have a certain amount of that, and Roy had plenty. Yeah,
it's great to see him back on TV as well, being a pundit. He's one of the best
box
pundits.
Office.
Yeah, big
time. Yeah, he's absolutely superb. He doesn't mince his words. He says it as it is. And he's sort of a step up from Scholesy, in that Scholesy is like that as well. But I mean, Roy just takes that, I like what I say, to a completely different level. And that's why people love tuning in to watch him.
You've got quite a lot of love on the comments here, Ben. Andrew Tweddle has said, "Is there any way I can get a signed photo of Ben?" There's a lot of love for you, Ben.
I think Andrew. I think he must be sick of lockdown.
I thought you were going to say buy the book.
No. That's listen. That's absolutely fine. If he can find me on Twitter. And he can direct message me, and I can get that sorted out for him, no problem.
Yeah, don't announce your phone number on here, Ben.
Yeah, no, mate, I love you.
But yeah, that's absolutely fine, not a problem. Anybody that wants to do that, just find me on Twitter, direct message me, and I'll gladly get that sorted out, not a problem.
You know what you'll be doing for the next 6 weeks, don't you?
Mate, you've opened it up now, pal.
Yeah, I was thinking more like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Changes his Twitter handle quickly. Robbie Savage. Moving on then. James Simkin, you could play on either wing and through the middle. What was your favourite or best position?
I must admit, I couldn't play through the middle. When I was a kid growing up, I was a central midfielder. Myself and Nicky Butt, for example, played centre midfield for Greater Manchester County. And he's a terrific footballer, by the way, to play with. He was magnificent. But when I arrived at Manchester United and they saw that I had a little bit of pace and a little bit of trickery, then they moved me onto the wing. And I could play on either side, but when you had Bex, you had Keith Gillespie, you had Colin McKee as well, who was there at that time. And we didn't really have anybody who played on the left-hand side, because Giggsy in the FA Youth Cup winning side played through the middle at the expense of Robbie Savage. Anytime Giggsy played, I thought it was going to be me that was left out, but sadly for Robbie, it was him, and Giggsy played through the middle, and I kept my place.
Yeah.
But I always enjoyed playing on the left-hand side, because as much as I was two-footed, I think that a majority of my ball control was better with my right foot, which meant that I could drag the ball with my right in order for me to be able to cross the ball from the byline with my left, and also enable me to be able to cut in. And I think that's why people like you speak to Gary Neville in the early days of us being at Man United. He hated playing against me. I mean, Gary obviously went on to be a terrific defender for both club and country, but he hated playing against me because I was two-footed, and he never knew which way I was going. And that was always difficult, and he hated it when I used to, come inside on my right foot, because as a fullback on either side, you like to keep people so that you can tackle them with your favoured foot. And obviously, if a winger comes inside, it's more difficult when you're tackling with your weaker foot as a defender. So, I could play on either side, hopeless down the middle as a forward. But my favourite position was definitely playing on the left-hand side.
And what's your thoughts on the current crop of wingers, Martial and James?
I think all the signings that we've made have been terrific. I think Anthony Martial, I'm hoping has had a new lease, because he has got everything. I find him a very frustrating player, because I can see that he is mega talented. He's strong, he's quick, he's got 2 great feet, he's brave, and he can finish. He's a wonderful finisher. And I think that, you look at, Dan James has got terrific pace. I think he perhaps has got a little bit of first season syndrome. People forget he's only a young lad. and he's had to play a hell of a lot of games coming in from a Championship side in Swansea. And I think he will definitely improve. But certainly with his pace, he gives United a new dimension. We've got Marcus Rashford to come back, who I think's been sensational up until he had his injury, but hopefully he'll be back along with Paul Pogba. And you know, we've brought in Hernandez, who's been terrific. I think he's raised everybody's game. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has seen fit to bring in Ighalo. And I think that he is now getting used to the pace of the game. I think he's a very, very good target man. And he's also sort of settled himself down by scoring a couple of goals. So, you know, let's hope that we can hang on to him and he doesn't go back to China.
Yeah, you could see something happening over that last 5 or 6 weeks with the results and everything. They were just starting to gel, weren't they? And they were looking like they were going to come into some really, really good form. Do you see that after lockdown, that team staying as they are with that form? And obviously we've got Pogba to come back.
Yeah, I do. I think he's going to have a bit of a headache, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, with the personnel that he wants to pick. But I think that with the introduction or the reintroduction of Paul Pogba and Marcus Rashford, it's like having, you know, two brand new signings. They've both been out certainly Pogba's been out for the best part of a year, really. And Marcus has been missing what will be nearly 6 months when we resume. So yeah, it's looking really, really good, and I think that everybody can now see what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is trying to build at Man United, and it's paying off. We're excited to watch. Yeah,
a really young squad as well, plenty of pace. It looks very exciting for the fans.
Yeah, it does. It does.
We've had another question coming in, Ben. Sorry to interrupt. Benji Smith. He's a Birmingham fan, but we won't hold that against him. It's thoughts on social media nowadays, Ben. I am referring to Jesse and his dancing. So what do you think?
Well, I mean, I listen, it's a way that the players can get themselves out there. I appreciate that. I know for a fact that the you know, different clubs have different sort of rules as to what people can post and on what format. Alex Ferguson would have said, get rid of it. No chance. You're not doing that. But the game's changed. And you know, footballers like to get themselves out there a lot more than they used to. Not all, but some. And you know, especially with the way that things have been over these last 6 to 8 weeks, then it's been an absolute welcome to see what some of these players have been getting up to and how the dancing is going. But I think there does have to be a level of you know, sort of sensibility about what they post and when. And I think that sometimes that has crept in when it's not really been the right time. But I don't see a problem with it. It's the world today. It's the world we live in. And as long as they can do it sensibly, then I don't see a problem.
Yeah, we had Lee Sharp on the other week, and he was saying Ferg used to give him a right bollocking for the you know, the celebrations he used to do at the corner flag.
we had Sharpie on the chat as well, and it was funny to hear some of the stories that in the end he just got sick of the manager having a go at him, and he just did what he wanted anyway. So he said, whether I knuckled down or whether I didn't, I was always going to get a rollicking. So I just did what I wanted from a certain time onwards. But great lad Sharpie, I've got a lot of time for him.
The thing is, he always delivered, didn't he? He's getting rollickings, but he's delivering on the pitch, so it's kind of like takes the edge off it a bit. If he wasn't scoring or wasn't playing, different story, surely.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, he was certainly a key member of Sir Alex Ferguson's squad and team for you know, 6 or 7 years. Remember that terrific hat trick he got in the late 80s at Arsenal when they won in the Littlewoods Cup or Rumbelows Cup or something. Anyways, yeah, he scored a hat trick in that like frosty white shirt that we had back then. And yeah, he scored some wonderful goals, and he was a really, really good player, Sharpie. And but I think he just had enough of the manager sort of picking on him a lot of the time. And when the opportunity came for him to go to Leeds, that's where he went.
Let's see if we've got any more questions coming through. It's like so much love for you, Ben. It's incredible. Stuart Q said he was at the West Ham game where you made your debut. He's still gutted that you got that injury. He said you're destined to be a star. We've had Sean saying, I watch and listen to Ben on MUTV. Comes across as a grounded bloke. Another great night tonight. I mean, from you being on the subtitle of your book is the class of 92 star that didn't get to graduate. Does this amount of love from the fans, how does that feel to you?
It's It's really special because I never made my name as a footballer at Manchester United like the rest of the lads that did growing up. And to hear that 20 years plus onwards down the line, I'm still getting people that remember that I was a talent at the time, and the guy there saying that he remembers my debut back in 1994. Any comments? I mean, obviously, you get the negative comments as well, but that's part and parcel. It comes with the territory. But when people take the time out to come on and say nice things, trust me, I don't get a chance to answer everybody, but I wish I did, because it's very special to me that I'm still getting nice things said about me a long time after I finished playing. So yeah, thank you everybody. I'm very appreciative.
I've got another question I was going to ask you earlier on with regards to your book. So we'll go back to what we said. You didn't think about writing the book, but it went out on the shelves after being convinced. Was there an anxiety of like, oh my God, have I done the right thing? Is this book going to be well received? Should I have done this? Was there a level of anxiety just waiting to see what the reaction would be to this book?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the nights that I didn't want to do the launch night. I know everybody has to do one. But I was almost it had almost come full circle that I'd been convinced into doing the book when I didn't think that anybody would be interested in reading it. And I had such a great time, or both Dan and I had a great time, speaking to all these different players. And don't forget, Dan has been a Man United fan for a long, long time. So for him to actually get to speak for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, whatever it was, to some of these players was, I'm sure he was very professional about it, but inside he would have been thinking, wow, I never would have been given this opportunity, and this has come about. But yeah, what I'm saying, it's come full circle. Once all that was out of the way, and the book, I was told from the publishers, was going to be on the shelves from October the 15th or whenever it was, I just thought, what happens if nobody buys it? Well, and you just think that, and the publisher's going to get on saying, hang on a minute, we've done this, but no buggers bought this damn thing. and of course you do have your doubts, but I slowly but surely started to receive tweets and emails from people saying, how do we get a signed copy? And that went up into certainly went past 1,000 anyway, people who actually wanted signed copies for, well, it was October, so a lot of people wanted things done for Christmas. So, I had to do that. And then obviously it went on general sale. The point for me was never, nobody apart, unless you're J.K. Rowling, nobody's going to make millions of pounds out of writing a book. But yeah. I think the exercise for me wasn't to see how much money I could make. That was always going to be just a little bit of a side bonus. It was to actually do the exercise and see how well it was received. That was what meant more to me than any pounds.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a few people here has bought it. There's a few comments coming in saying that they've bought the book. So yeah, it's good.
I bought it. I bought a copy of it yesterday. I'm waiting for it to come along.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed doing the research and writing it.
How long did it take you to get to do from start to finish? How long did it take?
A year. We started in September of 2017, and we did our final interview, and I can't remember who it was, but we did our final interview in the August of 2018, and then it went on the shelves in October.
Incredible. I could keep talking to you all day, Ben. I really could. I genuinely keep going and go. I'm very curious about, because obviously you played for Aberdeen, and today the Scottish League has just ended and Celtic are champions, Hearts have been relegated. What are your thoughts on that as someone who's played in the Scottish Premier League?
Well, I feel for Hearts. It's always been my belief that to stave off any sort of, and Hearts have started to lead the way, any sort of court case about teams being relegated or not promoted because they've not been given the required number of games to be able to to get themselves either out of the situation they're in or into a situation which means that they might get promoted. I think we're going to hear a little bit more about that. Hearts have already said they're not happy because obviously the revenue that they will lose from falling out of the TV of the Scottish Premiership with TV rights, etc. I know that the money in the SPL isn't as anywhere near like it is in the English Premier League or probably even the Championship, but it still means that they can operate on a reasonably decent budget. Dropping into the Scottish Championship is gonna have huge implications, not just for the players, but I would imagine for the staff as well. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this. I don't know how the voting system has worked. The problem is that Celtic season in season out are going to be the champions unless Steven Gerrard can get Rangers moving and unless Aberdeen can start making a push for it as well. But I'm sad that they're not going to go back to it. But obviously they felt that was the right course of action to take. It will just be very interesting to see where Hearts go with this now.
Yeah, and just on that, a lot of clubs are going to lose a lot financially, aren't they? We're going to see the clubs crumbling and disappearing. We'll look at Burton Albion today. They've obviously Cloughey's stepped aside as manager, and they've obviously got the ex-Derby captain in there now to save money. Is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is going to be the problem. I mean, these clubs are not getting any revenue. They're having no games. And what games that they might have to play are going to be behind closed doors, and that is something that worried me when I've had people getting in touch with me on Twitter saying we're a non-league club and we could really use any sort of donations that you can give, and can you speak to other people to see? I mean, there must be hundreds of clubs in that boat, and what we don't want to see is with all the money that does come into the game. The Premier League bringing in I don't know, is it 5 billion a season or something like that with where it goes all over the world? Then, one avenue surely must be to filter some of that down to make sure that we don't get another Bury on our hands and a league club falls. I can't for the life of me see how that was ever allowed to happen. And I really do genuinely hope that whenever we do start up again, we still have our full quota of 92 league clubs.
I think we can only hope. Another message is coming for you from Alan Keegan. Hello, Alan. He says, welcome back. Good old boy. So I think we've just gone over the hour mark now, Ben, which is normally where we hit the brakes. I want to say thank you very much for taking part in this show. I've really enjoyed it, and I've really enjoyed talking to you. You're an incredibly humble guy, and the comments here are 100%. There's a lot of love for you out there, Ben. So that's great. It's you don't see it that often, so I tip my hat to you for that. That's great.
Well, likewise, guys. It's been a real pleasure, and like I said, the people that have taken the time to say these things, then I am extremely appreciative, very grateful, and very humble.
Brilliant. So what's coming up on the show tomorrow as well, Ben, by the way? Your Man United TV show tomorrow, what's coming up?
We have got on the remainder of the week is Viv Anderson.
Nice.
Jesper Blomqvist. We've got Will Mellor coming on Thursday, and we're rounding the week off with the most decorated player in the Premier League, Ryan Giggs.
Fantastic.
So, we'll look forward to that.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Superstar Speakers, we thank Mr. Ben Thornley for joining us here this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take care, stay safe, and good night.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.